Dr. Christina Francis, the CEO of the American Association of Pro-Life Gynecologists and Obstetricians, and Christina Bennett, correspondent for Live Action and Pro-Life Advocate, join us now to talk about some of these results. Ladies, thank you both for being here. We appreciate it. I want to get your thoughts on all the ballot initiatives that Catherine went through and what you think. Dr. Francis, I want to start with you.
Absolutely. Well, as Catherine said, this was an unprecedented victory since the Dobbs decision. We've seen abortion measures like this win over the last 2 years. And for the first time this year, we now have 3 victories in 3 different states. And specifically in the states of South Dakota and Florida, we had physician coalitions. Our Florida coalition had over 700 in it who were speaking the truth about the harms of these ballot initiatives that would really not only expand abortion, but remove basic health and safety standards as well. And so these were huge victories for our patients, for the citizens of these states. Of course, we're devastated for our patients, for women in these other states that had losses from a pro-life standpoint, because now they are going to be facing dangerous later in pregnancy abortions, as well as a lack of health and safety regulations. And I'll just mention one more thing that I thought of as Catherine was talking. You know, many of these sort of hinge on viability, and they're claiming viability is at 24 weeks. Medical science has advanced so much that now viability in many places is actually as early as 22 weeks. So these amendments actually keep us in medicine from a decade or 2 ago, as opposed to being current with the current medical practice. And so, you know, we will continue to our efforts to reach people with the truth and to promote life-affirming medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. Christina, your thoughts?
We're rejoicing with states like Florida, and I want to thank Governor DeSantis because this is clearly a part of his leadership. You know, this is a result of him having a strong pro-life stance and leading his state in that way. But we're also mourning with other states like Missouri, because we know there's going to be a huge loss of life. And so we're feeling both the joy and the sorrow at the same time.
Yeah, and we talked about this last night about misinformation. When it comes to abortion. Dr. Francis, how much of a part do you think that played into some of these results?
Well, I think it played a huge role in these abortion amendments passing in the states that they passed in, and even for those that voted for them in states where they didn't pass. You know, we saw this in Ohio last year. We certainly saw it this year with not only stories coming out of ProPublica that were blaming deaths that were actually related to abortion drugs on state laws, and we also saw it recently with stories out of Texas. You know, thankfully, some leaders, like those of us in the pro-life movement, but also like Governor DeSantis, who brought our physicians on stage with him for press events, were doing their job in clearing up this misinformation and helping women understand that they can receive life-saving care in every state that has a pro-life law.
Yeah, and Christina, what do you think? I mean, this was the first election, presidential election, since Roe v. Wade was overturned. What do you think we need to do as a pro-life movement to really get our point across at the state level?
I think that we can't be afraid to show the truth. I think it's so important to show people the brutality of an abortion. Abortion is not reproductive justice. It's not health care. It is the dismemberment, the poisoning of an innocent, growing human being. Through Live Action, we have abortion procedure videos, and we show people the truth. But we also have to show them the beauty of life. And we do that through our Baby Olivia videos, the brutality of abortion and the beauty of life, so people really know what they are fighting for, what's at stake.
Absolutely. And this is a question to both of you. I'm going to pose this to both of you and get your takes on it. But what do you think we can expect to see from the next Trump administration when it comes to the pro-life movement? How do you think they'll be, Dr. Francis?
Yeah, well, you know, I think we will see what comes out of this administration. You know, certainly the president has changed his stance, at least publicly, somewhat on abortion. But, you know, I think what we have to look forward to is we will continue to promote life-affirming medicine for our patients to understand why that's actually better for them and for their children. But also, I think under this administration, we will definitely be able to count on protections for conscience rights for physicians and for hospitals. You know, recently Kamala Harris said that she would not support religious exemptions when it comes to abortion. So I definitely think we can look forward to defending conscience rights and in the promotion of life-affirming medicine and life-affirming laws in states across the country, and we'll see what we can do on a federal level.
Yeah, Christina, what about you?
I know it'll be easier for pro-life pregnancy centers. I know that they will not face the harassment that they do from the Biden-Harris administration. I hope that President Trump would reinstate the Mexico City policy and bar funds from going across the nations that support abortion. And I also hope and pray that he would pardon some of our imprisoned pro-life friends who are serving jail sentences because they stood outside of abortion clinics and did pro-life activism. And so I'm hoping that some of them could be pardoned.
Yeah. You know, we heard so much about a potential federal abortion ban during this election season. Dr. Francis, I want to ask you about that. Now that Republicans do have the Senate, I mean, do you think this is something that might be possible?
Well, you know, I think that's certainly something for the politicians to be discussing. You know, is that something that can go forward right now? What I do think that this election and these state ballot initiatives showed us is that we have a lot of work to do in educating the American public. You know, they're not all with where we are on the issue of life, and I think it's really important that they have accurate information. You know, certainly from my standpoint as a physician, that they understand that induced abortion is not health care and that it harms our patients. And so we'll continue to educate on that, and I certainly hope that legislators, both on a state and federal level, will be open to hearing about that as well.
Yeah, Christina, any thoughts there?
I would just say that nothing is impossible, and we know that Trump has shifted his opinion on this issue, but there are millions of people who are pro-life, who are praying, who are advocating for life, and I say that we should always keep hope alive.
Yeah, another thing that came up during this race was IVF. There was a lot of talk about that. Dr. Francis, kind of go through that with us.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you know, obviously it's a tricky issue that is very personal to many people, and so I think it inspires a lot of passion on both sides of that issue. But what has been, I think, elucidated over the last year or so as we've had this discussion, is that there's a lot of things that many people, even within the pro-life movement, honestly haven't thought about when it comes to IVF, when it comes to how our embryonic brothers and sisters are treated. You know, those embryos are human beings just like you or I, and so they deserve respect and they deserve to be taken care of. And so I think it is a discussion that needs to be had moving forward. I think there are policies that could be put into place that would sort of bridge the gap a little bit between those who are opposed to it and those who support it, but at the very least maybe looking at, are there regulations that could be put into place to better protect our patients?
Yeah, and as we know where the Catholic Church stands on
Absolutely.
IVF too, so we want to mention that. Christina, I want to get your final thoughts on what we heard from Catherine, the ballot initiatives. I know we touched on it from the topic, kind of put a bow on it for us.
I think it's encouraging that some of these states were close when it comes to the abortion ballots. And it shows that there are millions of Americans that truly value life and they want to protect life. Where we've seen losses, it's because there's misinformation. There's millions and millions of dollars. I think there was $120 million poured into Florida from pro-abortion activists to try to win that state. And so we have to understand that people are being lied to and deceived, but there are so many Americans that want to stand for life. So we have to continue to speak truth on the airways, through media, through social media, because our friends, our neighbors, our family members, they can be convinced to stand for life if they see the truth of what's really going on.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for being here. We appreciate it. God bless you both.
Thanks.